Today we're going to get into a deep one, and the question today is, does living in a deprived area affect you?
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste. For the record, for the record, for the record.
Now this is going to be a touchy one, quite possibly an emotional one for a lot of people. Depending on your perspective and the background that you come from, you're going to have some biases that are going to either say no, it doesn't affect you, or yes, it does affect you. Now first of all, I've got to disclose something. I come from a background that you wouldn't consider a well-off background or wealthy background. In some scenarios you might even consider it a deprived background. So I'm talking from real life experience rather than just the facts and, you know, just like not looking at the real inside information. I've lived it, I've been there, and I know exactly what goes on behind the scenes, and I can look at it from an unemotional standpoint as well. So hopefully I'm going to try my best to remain neutral with giving both sides of the argument. Now first of all, we've got to establish, what does deprived actually mean? It means different things to different people, but let's have a look in the dictionary what it actually means. Deprived means not having the things that are necessary for a pleasant life, such as enough money, food, or good living conditions. So here's an example. She has a deprived childhood, comes from a deprived background. Deprived can also mean disadvantaged. When someone says someone is disadvantaged, obviously if you're not from a deprived background, then you've got an advantage. So the assumption is that if you haven't got a deprived background, then you're starting with a head start in life. If you start with a deprived background, then you're starting almost like a couple of steps back compared to someone that has got everything that they need. Now whether you agree with that or not, that is just the definition of deprived. So let's just start with that as a basis. So it's clear and obvious just from the meaning alone that if you come from a deprived area, that you're starting with a disadvantage in comparison to the majority of other people. Even if you just look at the life expectancy of those that don't come from a deprived area, it often tends to be a good couple of years longer life expectancy wise than people in a deprived area. Now if we look at North Solihull for instance, which is a portion of Solihull, and people in North Solihull, they're considered to be living in a deprived area. The life expectancy there is 10 years less than those that live in South Solihull. Now that's crazy when you think about it, and it obviously isn't fair and it shouldn't be that way. But the truth of it is, it comes down to lifestyle choices, and it comes down to what people are able to do with the circumstances that are presented before them. So the financial situations that people are in the north will change the factors of the food that they choose to eat, the things that they choose to do as in physical activity and what they're able to do. It will also affect other factors, other variables that go into the lifestyle and well-being of an individual that can either extend or shorten the life. So when you consider those types of things, you've got to think, obviously there is such a thing as deprived and those that are living in normal conditions. What I really want to talk about is, does coming from a deprived background really affect the level of success that you're going to achieve in life, if any? Now, I'm not saying that if you come from a middle class or wealthy background that you're going to automatically have the perfect character and you're going to have a guaranteed level of success. Because a lot of the time, if you come from a wealthy background, you have flawed characteristics. Some people, because they live off mommy and daddy's lifestyle, they don't have that work ethic, or they have that attitude where they think they're above others. And those types of things, there's flaws with both sides of the fence, but obviously there are different types of flaws. So really, I just want to get into the deprived one. Now, one of the things I want to bring to your attention is a book called The Millionaire Next Door. There was a study done in the 1960s or 70s or 80s, I'm not really sure, but there's a study done around that time, and it was talking about how many millionaires are first generation millionaires, meaning they didn't inherit that wealth that they have. They was the first of their generation, of their family, to actually make it to be a millionaire. It wasn't passed on to them. The highest amount, I think it was something like 80% of millionaires were from first generation millionaires back then. I don't know about the stats now. Probably around about the same now as well. That kind of shed some light on a lot of assumptions. A lot of people assume that when someone's a millionaire or someone's successful that it was passed on. But a lot of the times it comes through hard work and dedication. But it's harder to swallow when you're coming from a deprived background. And that means that someone's come from a similar background to you, it's just that they've worked a lot harder or they've found their talent and used it to accumulate wealth or success. Like, it's harder to swallow that. That's often why you find that if someone comes from a deprived background and they're making it or they're doing well, others from that background won't congratulate them because they're from that similar background and it makes them look bad. That's the reality of it, and it's a sad reality, and it's one that I think people definitely need to work on as humanity and society as a whole, because you should be congratulating people. If people are working hard and doing something and they're committing, putting their mind to something, it should be a congratulation thing, like, well done, I can see you working. Now, if you think about world champion boxers, I can't think of any world champion boxers that come from a middle class or wealthy background. I've never ever heard of one, because a lot of the time you need character to be a world champion boxer, to get to that elite level, because boxing isn't easy. Boxing takes something with heart. Like, you need a certain character to do well at it, because it's a painful game. You don't play boxing. If you look at Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, all of them come from hard backgrounds. They've been through some serious trials. Like Muhammad Ali, he comes from the South where it was highly racist. His mum and dad didn't have much, but he made it to the level that he made it to, and he's known as the greatest. If you look at Mike Tyson, he was homeless and orphan, who grew up in Catskill, I think it was New York, and he grew up in a foster home, and he was put from home to home. So he grew up in a deprived area and he wasn't given much. And if you look at Floyd Mayweather, although he's filthy rich now, he come from a deprived area where he was in situations where he was in a one-bedroom house with 7 people, and there were situations where his dad was shot at and his dad held him up to cover himself from the shots. So there's loads of different situations where people have been through some serious hardships that you can only go through in deprived areas, and they've used that as fuel to motivate them to succeed in life. Now, if you look at the statistics of how many people actually make it out of deprived areas, that's what's shocking. It takes a certain person or a certain type of character to use that pain that they've been through to then propel them to be successful. Because a lot of the times, when you come from a deprived area, your network is deprived as well, which is a big difference. There's a saying in the world in general, your network will determine your net worth. Like, that is a big saying, and I didn't understand that until I was older. Basically means you are the 5 people that you hang around with most. I 100% believe that. Now, if you're living in a deprived area, a lot of the time the ambitions and motivations and aspirations of people are not going to be that high. Like, if you ask the majority of people, where do you want to work? They might say a store, they want to be the manager, and that's as far as it goes. Now, if you was to go to a middle class or a wealthy background, you would be given answers like, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an astronaut, I want to own a business, or I want to be the first person to achieve this or to achieve that. The aspirations are much, much higher, and that's because they're seeing examples before them from a young age that this can be done. Whereas a lot of the time, if you come from a deprived background, sometimes you look at it like, well, I don't know no one that can do that. I only see that on the TV, or I only hear that on the radio. Like, that's the truth of the matter. So you've got to ask yourself, all right, why is this? Obviously, there's an environment that's being created in deprived communities that's making people feel that they can't achieve. Because when you do try something, some people, they're put in a situation where their friends will say, you can't do that, stop being stupid, and they'll put them down. But one of the top rules, if you want to make it out of a deprived area, is you've got to pick your friends wisely, and you've also got to guard your dreams, because a lot of people are going to try and drag you down because they don't want you to achieve what they can't achieve, because they're not able to commit themselves. And my background would be considered a deprived background because I grew up in Kingshurst and moved to Smithswood, and my mum was a single parent. So automatically that's a single parent and a single income. So straight away you're at a disadvantage because most other households have 2 incomes. So straight away you're working much harder and your time is limited. That means holidays are limited, quality times are limited, and headspace alone, your mum just stressing about paying bills and not having time to actually sit down with you and not worry about anything because she's got something else that she needs to worry about. So all these things play a factor into how you grow up. And don't get me wrong, mums do everything that they can. Some of the strongest women that I know are single moms. That's the truth of the situation. If you've got a single parent household, for example, and your mum is working, you're going to get convenient food, which happens to be food with preservatives that is most likely oven or microwave. So it's not always going to be fresh food. Not everybody has this, but some people will, just for convenience. Then you've also got lifestyle choices. What are you going to do as in physical activity? Are you going to do activities and groups after school and things like that, which can affect your health, and the habits that you set early on will set the habits for when they're older. So if you're not doing that when you're younger, then obviously obesity and all those kind of problems are going to come into it. And that's something that's learned and passed on through generations. And there's a saying, a lot of people in the medical industry are saying that if people are overweight, then often the children will be overweight too. And that's often because it's taught. Same with smoking, same with drinking. If you smoke or if you drink, often it passes on to the next generation because they copy what they see. It's just the way it is. So if we look at that and we look at the ambitions of people, the ambitions of people that are in deprived areas, if they think they can't achieve a certain level, they won't achieve a certain level. How many go on to higher education that are from a deprived background in comparison to those in a middle class or a wealthy background? You've got all these things, the stats and numbers and figures don't lie. The thing is, it doesn't mean that if you come from a deprived background that you can't make it. It's just that it's a lot harder because you're coming from a point where it's a lot further back than other people. So this brings us back to the original question. Does living in a deprived area affect you and the level of success that you are most likely to achieve? I would say 100% yes, it does affect you, but to the degree it affects you is down to you as an individual. Stats and figures don't mean anything. You can change that. You're in control of what you want to achieve with your life. The difference is the choices that you make. And 100% I believe the people that you hang around with and the environment that you're brought up in. If you're brought up in a household where ambition, education, physical activity, understanding how to handle your finances, those types of principles are a priority within your household, then you're going to be more likely to succeed even if you're from a deprived household, because that's the environment that you're nurtured in. So hopefully that video was useful to you guys. Now let me know in the comments below what you liked. I'm definitely going to hear what you disliked because I know you're all going to go in the comments. I'll see you on the next video when I give you tips on storytelling or thought-provoking videos on social issues just like this one, or I might give you a one-off vlog or something like that. But let me know what you want to see below. Out of those three, which ones would you prefer to see more of?